Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name is Clint Button, and I'm a granite sculptor. And welcome to video number 158 of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Okay, last video, our work focused more on these. This is still tall. This actual line here, this has to go back behind this fold. So this has to drop quite a bit. And, by virtue of that, going down, it'll bring this beside it visually forward. But we fixed this, we got that put together. We've got to move this line from here, because I had it approximately to that point, but it should be over to this area to get it closer to what it is on the model. And so what I've done is I've just lowered this, because moving this, we've got to create this spot through here has to become the new edge. Okay, and so we have to lower to where that looks believable, and we'll just slowly tune this over and push this back a little bit, and this will fall into the bottom of this curve, and it's going to pick that up, and we'll just transition that edge. And this is how you either move a line or you fix it if something breaks. And so this isn't overcommitted yet. We're still good. I won't take this material off because I want to leave some of it to bring this up. But because this leg should be forward of this leg, because this thigh over here, her left thigh, is going to be a little bit further back because she's stepping forward with her right. So we want that to go back, but we still want to have some volume there. And so I've just slowly lowered this with a 16 point and with a bush chisel just to get it down. And now that it's down almost there, I'm going to work on getting my edge together, and then I'll have, as I have my edge, as long as I don't have any failures, because it'd be stupid to go ahead and cut this off and then find out that I've got a big crumble up here. I want to clean that edge up, and we'll basically go right along through there. To create this, we'll probably take a little bit off the top of there just to get that nice flow and make it look like it does right there. Have that nice curve. But we won't worry about that till we get down there. We're gonna just slowly work this down. So cut some stone, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to use the corner of this bush chisel, just slowly work this down to break that, okay? I'm going to push this back a little bit, and I'll develop that. This will be a long shot. I'm going to try to do this while y'all can see. Okay. I hate, maybe that'll help you see. this is something that is just an ongoing issue. You can deal with it as you move along, or you can try to go back at the end and go over it. Went to a show the other day, art gallery thing, and there was a painting, and when you paint, you're supposed to paint the background on first and then paint everything on top of it. That's one of the magical things about like oil painting, is that you can create actual layers of paint, and they are on top of each other to give you that depth. You don't want to paint something and then do the background around it, because you can see that witness from those brush strokes, and it makes it look really, it's just not a good idea. Okay, let's see if we can see. Can you see this line right here? There's a cut right there from a chisel. Okay, this is my line here that goes down here, but see, there's a cut there from a chisel. Now I need to clean up every single bit of those all the way around this. I just did one right here. Well, I ought to show them this while I'm doing it, because anytime you've got a mark like that you leave, you're creating something. Let me hang this camera. We're creating, this isn't real drapery, okay? This isn't a real leg, okay? Our goal is to make this look the work needs to explain itself. We don't need to come in and say, well, this is supposed to represent a starry night on a cloudy day. No, none of that stuff. We're supposed to be able to look at this and say, there's a leg, that's a knee, bending forward, and this is drapery that's going across. We don't want anything that's going to distract that. And when you have these little production lines like that, and you leave them, the thing is you're not going to see those that easily right now, or even when you put the stone out in the cemetery. But what's going to happen clean up all the stuff like that, all the witness that makes it obvious, makes it apparent that this is something somebody carved, okay? And those little lines are going to be so much more prominent in 2 to 5 years when they start getting dirty. And then they're always going to be there. And so people are going to come up and go, wow, man, that leg bends really nice. You can see the way her calf is shaped here. Oh yeah, look at that. There's a big old line right there. And that's the kind of things people will notice. The same thing with this sort of crumple here that we're doing to mitigate the depth right there. I want to make all this flow enough in fabric crumples, okay? There isn't an exact formula. You look at some of the old drapery, and I wish I was trained to do the really old faceted drapery stuff, man alive. Some of it is so wrinkled and crumpled, and it's just, and it looks so cool. You get into the risk, if it's too perfectly pendant and it doesn't have some deformity in it, it'll look very, very false. And I want this to look more believable than false. And you're gonna have some things that don't make as much sense, and some things that don't make a lot more sense. This rumples should be okay because I've got corresponding depth here, so that I'm not too deep here and a lot taller here. And this is actually taller than what I think it is on the model. Up here at the waist, I can't really see. Up here at the waist, at the very top of the screen, where this is the approximate bottom of the waist band. This is going to sink in And when this sinks in, we're going to take these and we're going to turn them over, okay? So they go in so that the waistband is on top. I'm not going to go crazy carving the waistband just yet, but generally the waistband is going to be behind. These are folds on her blouse, and so this is going to be deeper, and this is going to go around to the side more, and so this will go deep, and this, there'll be a little bit of rotation in her hip, where this hip will be more forward than that hip will. And it should all come together well, but anytime you see those little flaws, those little marks, where you carved and you left a chisel, a tool mark, either clean it up or mark it with your pencil, okay? So that you see it and you don't forget about it, because at the end, when you're doing everything, you've got to clean up everything so it all looks perfect, all right? Back to carving. As I'm working this, I wish it was feasible to get perfect camera work that I could say, no, that shot doesn't work. Let me back up, we'll do it again, and I'll make another one. The problem is that this is a one-way street. I can't back up and do it again. This isn't, you know, doing culinary videos where I can say, oh, just grab another onion and cut it up, and that one that didn't look perfect, we'll throw it in the stock and it'll be fine, or whatever. No, I can't. It's a one-shot deal. And this is one of the things we've talked about with a very old friend, great friend. He's been from known him ever since 7th grade, and he's one of the guys I'm still in touch with, and he's a fantastic videographer. He's a professional, and he says, man, Clint, he says, I don't know how I do it, because I don't know how to get the shot of what's important, because you're going so fast with this that I don't know how we'd capture everything. I think you're doing, you know, probably as good a job as can be done, because you can't do another take, and he's used to, you know, being able to formulate it and do another take if we need to get a better shot. And it isn't even like the video stuff where, you know, they have the golden hour of sunlight in the afternoon right before the sun goes down and the colors are right, whatever. You can just, oh, we have to put another day on the production and do another day. You know, I can't do that. So I want to do this. I want to use this big chisel just so that it's easy to see, and sharpen a piece of paper. Now, when I'm carving these lines and I'm defining, like I'm cleaning that up and I'm defining that line, let me show you what I'm doing. I'm going to do this to represent those two, this contour and that contour, okay? You understand? This is what would be her knee, and this is the edge of that fold. And it produces this valley, which would be a line, okay? Just for a rough example. What you don't want to do, what I've talked about with checking a line, is I don't want to put my chisel on that line and go back and forth to make that line, to sink that line. You know, where I'm going straight in and I'm going back and forth like that, down in that valley, down in here, and I'm down in that, see if I get my arms out of the way. I'm like that, down in between those things, and I'm going back and forth to make that line. That's how you check your stone, and that's how you create a fracture, and that's how this whole whoop, just falls right off. And that sucks, man. What I'm doing, and if you're watching closely, is that I have to make sure that my bevel on my tool, okay, ideally the bevel on my tool is going to be more, less steep. It's going to be steeper than that, so that my shoulders on my bevel, you know, when I say shoulders, I'm talking about, let's see, I'm talking about this edge and this edge, okay? To where those two outside edges, this angle here, how steep that is, that V shape, has to fit down in here without hitting anything, okay? So I talked about drawing the bevel back on these other ones. Now, this is why I'm not into jigs, okay? And putting jigs on the grinder, and we're going to set this up, and it's going to be a perfect 14-degree angle or a 23-degree, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I don't know what this angle is. What did I carve that angle to? What is it? I don't know. And so in order to put that bevel on my chisel, I got to figure out what half of that angle is, because I'm only going to do one side of it. What's that? I don't know. I don't care. Okay? You have to be able to dress it back so it's nice and skinny, so it's got a long, so it doesn't bind in there. But as I produce this line, I'm doing the same thing I keep talking about. I'm not cutting that line. I'm creating that line by leaving it there. And what's going to happen is I carve here, and I carve here, and I carve here, and I carve here, and it provides somewhere for the stone to break away and break off, okay? So the stone breaks out, and because my chisel's drawn back so much that it's so sharp, I can go right down to the bottom of that valley and not cut a line in there and check that, okay? Even if I go right to the bottom, I can go right to the bottom and just let the chisel stop, okay? Super sharp chisel. What'll happen is you'll end up having these valleys, and there's another benefit to this as well. If you take this tool and you lean into it and you just scrub it back and forth, when you hit the stone, it stuns it, right? It makes a white line, okay? You can see that, okay? When you don't, it doesn't stun it as badly. It doesn't leave that big white mark. So that helps make your valleys a little bit darker. They're different value. They're not as light color. They're not white from being stunned. So they are both more secure and they look better, okay? Because what happens is if you lean into that and put that line, now at the very end, I may take a super sharp chisel and like a small hand machine, like a 3/4 hand machine, turn way down, maybe even a smaller one, you know, if I'm using one. And I'll go around and I'll chase these lines just to make sure there's no roughness or crumble in the bottom. But I don't take my bigger machine and do that with them, because you'll cause problems, all right? And it's about technique. You're gonna learn the hard way, because you're gonna do it the wrong way until you do it the right way. I'd love for people to watch these videos and never make a mistake. Oh, I did it right from the start because Button said this, and he's not as big an idiot as people think he is, and I just listen to him. No, you're gonna say, oh, I can do that, and you're gonna get enthusiastic, and you're gonna start leaning on it, and all of a sudden something's gonna dance. You're gonna be like, oh no. And then you're gonna lean on it, it's just gonna poof, it's gonna fall right off, okay? Trying to show you how to avoid that. And more importantly, I'm trying to show you how to carve in a strategic way so that when that happens, because it will, okay? It will. You'll know why it happened, you'll know how to fix it, and you'll know how to avoid doing it again, because now you've been taught by the stone, because the stone's smarter than we are, where you got to do and what you got to do to make it all come together. Okay, so this is coming along really well. I hope you can see the difference in this, as much as I hope you can't see the difference. This should still look great. We changed this fold a lot, but it still looks good. And I've got to do a little bit more depth here and here, and I'll thicken these folds just a little bit so that they should look good. This is where the most tension is, on the outside of her leg, and it should look like that's where it's pulled and forced the most. But the rest of this should look congruent to that, like it's all related, okay? So, but I hope that makes sense. Work your way down into the valley. We're creating edges, we're creating lines. We're not carving lines, and we're not carving edges. We create them, okay? Learn to do that, all right? I hope you like that. My name's Clint Button. I'm a granite sculptor here at Carolina Sculptor Studio with a Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.